If you're required to buy everything that that person tells you about themselves, and then when they're gone, you feel like you've been drained and you're exhausted, then I think you know it's a narcissist.
So the word narcissist is thrown around a whole lot these days. And I'd like to ask you guys, what is the difference between someone who is narcissistic versus merely self-centered?
Narcissist, as I explain in my continuum of self-theory, is a relative term. You can behave narcissistically, and then there's gradations or levels of that narcissism. But there is a point at which narcissism can be pathological, and we describe that in the mental health field as either narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, or borderline personality disorder. I created in my book, Human Magnet Syndrome, the term pathological narcissism to describe the type of narcissism that hurts people, and that narcissist is not conscious or aware of it, so it doesn't stop. So the narcissism that is toxic and harmful and purposely used to hurt someone is dangerous. Some levels of narcissism can be healthy though. So narcissism doesn't always have to be a very negatively loaded term. It's when someone is a pathological narcissist, that is someone who's harmful, toxic, and worse than that is they don't know they're narcissistic. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know you're narcissistic, how do you stop? How do you allow yourself to be kind to others when you need everything to be about you?
And I think to make it simple when you ask that question, because I agree with everything that you said, and is that a narcissist is excessively self-referential, and a selfish or self-centered person is self-preferred. Right?
Okay.
They would prefer it to be about them. They would prefer to have what they want. But the narcissist doesn't even know you're there. There is no other person except to create homage. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. That's your purpose in life. If you're around a narcissist, that's all you're good for. But a self-centered person or whatever, they see you. They just prefer to have it their way.
I think the tricky thing is understanding if we are in a relationship with someone who may be a pathological narcissist is what does it feel like? And I think one of the examples is if you feel like that person is watching you in your sleep, if it feels like there's smoke and mirrors, if you're required to buy everything that that person tells you about themselves, and then when they're gone, you feel like you've been drained and you're exhausted, then I think you know it's a narcissist. Mm-hmm. And a very important thing is the only way to learn about it is to have an experience around someone who's very narcissistic. There's an old movie called Fearless Vampire Hunters, and it's about people who have been bitten but live to tell who can hunt other vampires. And I think that if we are in a relationship where we have felt those things, we need to get someone to help us. Mm-hmm. We need other eyes on this. We really do need, I think, a mature and experienced therapist like you two, or relationship counselor, because we really can't do it alone. It's too crazy making to be around a full-blown narcissist. Mm-hmm. If we have our own unique ways of being in the world, the narcissist doesn't want that.
But narcissists cannot be in a relationship alone. The type of person that typically is in a relationship with a narcissist, it's like a dancing couple. You need a leader and you need a follower. A narcissist requires a codependent, and a codependent requires a narcissist for the relationship to be stable or long-lasting. So for us to understand what to do in a relationship with a narcissist, we have to ask ourselves, why are we in a relationship with a narcissist, and why haven't we left that relationship, one in which is always about someone else and not about ourselves? And therein is codependency, or what I work with my clients, is to understand what compels them to stay with someone who hurts them, but yet feels so good.
My guess is that there's some, basic biology that, as opposed to the codependent who's probably relatively high on the estrogen scale, because, almost sort of predispositions that are chemical. And then, of course, the environment plays on them in various ways in your early childhood that meant to make one kid the narcissist and his brother not the narcissist. Because,
And and I talk about this in the Human Magnet Syndrome. Is quite simply, it can be traced back to being raised by a pathological narcissist and how you survived that childhood. If you survived as a caretaker, as the giving child, as the trophy child, the gifted child, that's a trajectory for adult codependency. But if you could not get the love from your narcissistic parent, you were alone, you were hurt. You learned that the only way you can be loved is to love yourself and take care of yourself. And that's a trajectory of adult pathological narcissism.
You know, the good news is only 5% of the people that you meet are actually diagnostically narcissistic, and all the rest of us, we're just having a little self-centered moment.